For the state.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, at this time the state would call Mr. Robert Pittman to the stand.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please be seated.
Mr. Waller.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Pittman, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you.
Will you please state your name for the record?
Robert Pittman, Jr.
And Mr. Pittman, do you live here in Raleigh, sir?
Yes, I do.
How long have you lived in Raleigh?
Since 1970.
And what type of work do you do, Mr. Pittman?
General carpentry, construction, basically construction work.
And Mr. Pittman, I want to turn your attention back to May of 2013. Were you working on a specific job site in May of 2013, sir?
Yes, I was. I was working at North Hills job site for a Fortune company.
What kind of job site was that?
It was a large apartment complex, several different units, I think maybe 12 or 13 units out there, very large complex.
How many of those apartment buildings were open for the public to move into at that point, sir?
Not many, maybe 2 or 3 out of the 12 were available for rent at that particular time.
And Mr. Pittman, you said this apartment complex was in the North Hills area. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about where exactly in the North Hills area this apartment complex was located?
It's right off of Six Forks Road, around the loop on the backside, right there.
Mr. Pittman, can you tell the members of the jury a little bit about how you went about going to work that morning?
Yes, I was living on Capitol Boulevard at the time, and I caught a bus to Capitol and to Moore Square, and then caught another bus to North Hills, and walked around from North Hills Shopping Center around to where the job site was.
What time did you leave for work that morning?
About 5:30.
And what time did you catch the bus there at the Moore Square parking deck?
About 6:15.
And then what time did you get over there to North Hills?
I was there a little before 7 o'clock.
Hey, Mr. Pittman, what were your general duties going to be that day there on May 14th of 2013?
That particular day, I was running a sweeper, which is a large, fairly large machine that sweeps up dirt and debris off the pavement, keep the dust down and stuff.
And is that something you'd started the night before and just kind of going to finish up that morning?
Correct. I didn't finish the job the night before, so I came in that morning and immediately started on that process.
How long, Mr. Pittman, would you say you had been working at that job site there off at North Hills?
Probably about 3 months, maybe a little longer than 3 months.
And I may not have asked you, but the name of that apartment complex, do you remember what the name of the apartment complex is?
I worked at so many different ones, so I believe I can't really tell you what the name of it was.
That's fine. Mr. Pittman, had you, while you'd been working there over that 3 months, had you noticed kind of any criminal activity or anything going around or going on there at the complex itself?
No, I didn't. I hadn't noticed anything. It's a pretty nice place, actually. And, I hadn't noticed any kind of criminal activity going on.
A lot of stuff didn't get missing, equipment or anything like that?
On any job site of that size, sir, you do get something missing here and there, you know, but nothing out of the normal, nothing out of the ordinary.
And when you got there to the job site about 7 o'clock on May 14th of 2013, can you kind of describe for us a little bit about, what kind of day was it? Was it rainy, anything like that?
It was a little chilly that morning, but other than that, it wasn't raining or anything. Just a little chilly though.
And were there other people there at the job site when you arrived?
Yes. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. Did you see other people around?
Yes. Well, there was, of course, the Spanish crowd that we had there. They were working. They always energetic bunch and get in there and go to work early. And there was people all around me working. My crew hadn't got in, the people that I was working with, because like I said, I started a little early that morning, but there was people working all around. Yes, sir.
And Mr. Pittman, when you arrived there at the job site, did you have to clock in or anything like that, or report to a supervisor?
Yes, sir.
Who'd you report to?
Mr. Tom Finn.
And so you let him know you were there and getting ready to start work?
Right.
What time would you say you started running that sweeper, Mr. Pittman?
A little before 7 o'clock, yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Pittman, at some point during those early morning hours when you got there, did something kind of unusual happen with you?
Yes, it did. I was running the sweeper, like I said, and at one point I looked up and I saw this child standing at the fence, and she had her hands locked in the fence and she was crying, standing there in a nightie and barefoot. So it got my attention, so I cut the sweeper up and got down and went and asked her what was wrong. And she told me that she tried to wake her mother up and couldn't. She had blood all over her face. And she needed her cereal and she needed to get dressed because she had to go to school. That's what she said.
Mr. Pittman, had you seen this little girl before, sir?
No, sir.
About how old would you say this little girl was?
She looked to be about maybe 6 or 7 years old.
Well, you said she was upset.
Yeah, she was crying.
And she was still in her pajamas at that
Yeah,
point?
she had a nightie on and was barefoot.
You mentioned that she was on the other side of a fence from you. Could you tell us a little bit more about that situation?
Yes, sir. We separate the rental units on one side and the construction area on a different side. So we fence that area in so people that are renting these apartments don't walk into a construction area. And like I was on one side of the fence and she was on the other side where the apartment was, the rental area was.
Mr. Pittman, at this point, what did you think was going on, sir?
I didn't have a clue. I just knew the little girl was upset, and when she said her mother looks like she had blood on her face, I knew something was wrong. So, I told her to stay right there until I could get around there to her. And, I obviously knew something was wrong about the little girl being upset like that.
What did you do at this point, Mr. Pittman? Did you go to her?
I did. When I got around the gate to the street that I could come down to meet with her, I was able to radio my superintendent and get him down there. And I told him we had a situation, and we both at that time jointly decided to go ahead and call 911 and started going up the stairs as we were talking to 911 actually at the same time, because I felt like if there was anything I could do, I would try to do what I could, before they got there.
And the little girl, was she still with you?
Yes. I had her by the hand. She was with me all the way up.
You mentioned she was upset. when
Yes,
you
sir.
saw her on the other side of the fence? Was she still upset when you got to her?
Well, she kind of calmed down a little bit when I got there, but just knowing that an adult was in her presence and trying to help do something.
And you mentioned you had a superintendent that joined you. Who was
Yes,
that?
sir. Mr. Tom Finn, superintendent, he was down there just quick as I called him. He was right down there, and we, like I said, we called 911 and we started heading up the stairs to where she lived at.
Tell us a little bit about how you went into the apartment.
Well, we got to the top of the stairs, and I let Hannah open the door. I let the child open the door to go in her apartment. And immediately as soon as she did, I stepped in front of her, and Mr. Finn stepped behind me, so Hannah was in the back of us. I asked her, I said, "Where's your mother at?" And she said, "The last room on the left-hand side." So I walked down the hallway, and that's where I encountered Miss Jones. She was laying on the bed. And I could tell she had blood all over her face, and blood was everywhere. And I put 2 fingers on her wrist, and there was no pulse, and she was cold as a block of ice. And I was steadily talking to EMS. They were asking me to do this and that, and I just told them that it was just too late for that.
So the entire time you were in the apartment, you were on the phone with 911.
Correct.
You mentioned that the little girl's name was Hannah. Is that a name you've learned since this incident back in May of 2013?
Yes.
Did Hannah tell you her mother's name prior to going into the house?
No.
She just told you where she was.
Yes.
You mentioned before you entered the house that you did have to open the door, that Hannah had to open the door. Do you recall doing that, sir?
Yes, I did. It's just procedure normally in any apartment complex like this for the tenant to open their own door and go in their own place. And then I could follow behind. But in this case, not knowing what was going on, I got in front of her immediately as soon as we got in there. But yes, she did open the door.
When you walked into the apartment, Mr. Pittman, did you see anything kind of out of the ordinary? Did it appear to have been any kind of struggle or disturbance in the living quarters of the apartment?
I didn't notice anything. At that particular time, I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary in the living room area or kitchen area, whatever. I had like a blind mule. I was just going straight down the hallway to where she told me her mother was at. And that room was in a certain amount of disarray when I got there, yes.
What do you mean by that, Mr. Pittman?
It looked like some things had been turned over on the table up there on our dresser, if you will. I don't know. Just didn't look right to me.
Was Hannah in the room with you when you went in?
No, sir. We did not let her in the room any time during that. She stayed behind me and Mr. Finn. We made sure she did. And, that way she wouldn't have to go through that again.
How about Mr. Finn? Did he enter the bedroom with you?
As far as Mr. Finn got was the doorway. I mean, it's not a very big place anyway, but I was beside the bed. I checked her pulse, and Mr. Finn was at the doorway, and the child was standing behind him. And no, he didn't enter the room at all.
And you mentioned that you felt Melissa's pulse or felt for a pulse and didn't find one, and that she was cold.
Correct.
Did you let Mr. Finn know that?
Yes, I did.
What happened at that point, Mr. Pittman?
I just shook my head at him like that, and, you know, he pretty much figured out what that meant. And at that time, he walked out on the balcony with the child, and 911 told me to wait with the lady. And I didn't feel comfortable about that, so I stepped out of the room into the hallway, and I waited at the hallway right by her door until EMS got there.
How long would you say it took EMS to get there after you hung up the phone with 911?
In this particular situation, it seemed like hours, but no, it was just a few minutes. They were there right on the spot.
Now, Mr. Pittman, when you and Hannah and Mr. Finn entered that apartment complex or that apartment building, did y'all disturb anything, move anything in any way, sir?
It didn't touch anything, no.
And when you felt of Melissa's hand or wrist to try and get a pulse, did you even move her arm in any way?
No, I did not.
Yes. Mr. Pittman, I'm handing you what has been marked for identification purposes at State's Exhibit 1. Have you had the opportunity to review the 911 call that you made, sir?
Yes, I have.
And you've had an opportunity to listen to it in our office?
Yes, I have.
And is this disc labeled 911 call?
Yes, it is.
And when you listened to the 911 call, sir, were there any changes or alterations or any editing made to that 911 call at all?
None whatsoever.
Recognized your voice appeared to be you on the call?
Yes, sir.
No changes or alterations?
None.
Your Honor, this time I'd ask to introduce State's Exhibit 1.
Any objection? It's allowed.
Your Honor, permission to publish State's Exhibit number 1 to the jury, playing it through the speakers.
Yes, sir. Now, Mr. Pittman, in a moment, the 911 call is going to play. I may ask you some questions during the tape, or I may just let it play, okay?
That's fine.
What's the address of your emergency? Kenny family here. 7 hours later.
Hello?
Hi, this is 911. What's the address of your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I need an emergency vehicle at 441 Allister. We have it's apartment 101, 441 Allister.
Okay, you said it was a house or apartment?
It's a kid. It's an apartment complex, ma'am. It's a kid out here in the street says her mom's got blood all over her. She couldn't get to the phone.
Okay.
So I don't know what your question is.
What's the apartment number that she lives at?
The apartment number is apartment 101.
Hey, what's your name, sir?
Ma'am,
What's your name?
this is 441 Allister.
Sir, what's your name?
Right off Allister, right off Bramblewood. My name is Robert Pittman.
All right, Robert, what's the phone number that you're calling from, including area code?
The number I'm calling from is 628.
Hey, Robert, tell me exactly what happened.
I don't know. I look out here at this complex was building, and a little young girl was out in the street, kind of like you're saying, my mother had blood or a little like blood or whatever, and she would not respond.
Can you see her father? Do you know where her mother is?
No, ma'am, my mother is on the phone.
Can you get the phone to where he is?
Ma'am?
Can you get the phone to where she is?
I guess I could go up there.
Please, that would be...
Let me go to the phone, ma'am. We'll go to the phone. Melissa? Melissa?
Are you walked into the apartment now?
Yes, ma'am, I am, and
What apartment did you walk to?
there's blood everywhere, ma'am.
Okay, what apartment are you in now?
I'm in 101.
Okay. All right, you see where her mother is?
Yes, ma'am, she's laying on the bed, and there's blood everywhere. If you're what appears to be blood, yes, ma'am.
Okay, how old is she?
I don't know, one could be in the 30s, maybe 30, 40.
Okay,
She's 30.
is she awake?
No, ma'am, she's not responding to any call. Melissa?
Sarah, is she breathing? Robert?
No, ma'am.
All right, I'm updating our
No.
responders right now, but we're getting them to you as fast as we can.
No, ma'am.
Is there a defibrillator available?
Ma'am?
Is there a defibrillator and AED available?
No, ma'am. I don't see one in here.
All right, are you right by her right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Listen carefully.
I cannot find a pulse, ma'am.
Okay, Robert, listen carefully. Lay her flat on her back on the floor and remove any pillows.
Ma'am, I think it's too late for that.
Okay, what makes you think that?
Ma'am, you got somebody on the way.
We got help on
I'm
the way.
sorry,
but we're trying
I
to
didn't
help her
get
as much as
that.
we can before they get there. What makes you think that she's beyond any help?
She's cold as ice, ma'am, and I can't, there's no pulse.
Okay. Stay on the line while we make sure of her situation. I'm sending someone to assist you, remember. Please leave everything as you found it. Is there anything else we can do for you?
No, ma'am. I just wait here with her.
All right. Just make sure you don't touch anything. Leave everything as you found it. We do have help on
Yes,
the way.
ma'am. I'm just going to stand right here.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go now. If anything changes, just give us a call back, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Mr. Pittman, when that phone call begins, you hear what appears to be a young girl's voice in the background. Who was that, sir?
That was the child that I was with.
Hannah.
I was with Hannah, yes.
And in hearing that phone call, does that refresh your memory that it was the Allister apartments that you were at?
Yes.
In the phone call, you hear another voice say Melissa or call out her name. Who was that, sir?
I think I called. I asked Hannah what the mother's name was, and she told me, Melissa, I believe it was I believe I was the one that called her name.
And you mentioned there was blood everywhere, and then the 911 operator that asked you to leave everything as you found it, and then did you in fact do that?
Correct, I did.
Yes. Mr. Pittman, I'm going to hand you 3 photographs that have been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 2, 3, and 4. Mr. Pittman, if you'll take a look at those photographs, starting with State's Exhibit 2, and do you recognize what that photograph depicts?
Yes, sir. That's the building the apartment complex that they lived in.
And just for clarification purposes, State's Exhibit 2, is that the front or the rear of the building?
That's the rear of the building, I do believe.
And is that State's Exhibit 2, that side of the apartment complex, is that the one that that faces out towards 440
Yeah.
and 6 Forks.
Yeah, that faces towards 440. This faces back in towards the other units.
And I know I'm standing up here in front of you, but just make sure you keep your voice up loud enough so that
Okay,
yours can-
sorry.
So State's Exhibit 2 is the apartment complex as it faces out towards 440.
Correct.
And then State's Exhibit 3 is kind of the back of the complex, or back of the apartment building that faces into the rest of the complex.
True.
And then State's Exhibit number 4, what is that a photograph of, sir?
That's a photograph of Melissa, as I saw her when I went into her room.
And those photographs fairly and accurately represent the scene as you found it there that day, sir.
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask to introduce State's Exhibits 2, 3, and 4 into evidence for illustrative purposes.
Any objection?
Objection to number 4 for reasons previously stated.
All right, that objection's overruled. They are allowed for illustrative purposes.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Your Honor, if I may publish State's Exhibit 2, 3, and 4 to the members of the jury using the
Yes.
screen. Mr. Pittman, State's Exhibit 2 that is now on the screen. Can you just describe for the members of the jury what you see there, sir?
That's the side of the apartment building that the lady lived in, had to be facing 6 Forks Road.
So if you're coming from the North Hill Shopping Center and driving up on the complex, this is the front side that you would see.
Correct.
State's Exhibit 3. Can you describe for us what you see there, sir?
That's the side of the apartment that faces to the adjacent apartments on the construction site.
And when you found Hannah and Mr. Finn that morning, can you kind of show the members of the jury how you entered the complex or the apartment building that morning? And you can permission from Mr. Pittman to stand up.
Yes, sir. If you wish to stand up, just keep your voice up so everyone can hear you, sir.
We were out here on this street in front, and we walked up the stairs to her apartment. Up there.
So there's a police officer in the photograph there. Is that kind of the breezeway that you entered, sir?
Correct.
Okay, and you went in, and then you can kind of see a stairwell leading up. Those stairs you took up to her apartment. Looking at this photograph, can you show the members of the jury which balcony would be the balcony that belongs to the apartment that Miss Huggins-Jones was found in?
If I'm not mistaken, I think this one right here.
And do you know below that balcony and I guess the first floor apartment, do you know what that building or that apartment was being used for at this time?
No, sir. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's 2 apartments on the bottom side. And as you go up the steps to the next floor, there's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the next flight. And I'm not even sure if they were even rented at that particular time or not.
So, Mr. Pittman, to get into Melissa's apartment from this level, you would have to go up a flight of stairs if you came through the breezeway.
Correct.
Now, Mr. Pittman, you described State's Exhibit 4 as the condition in which you found Melissa there in her room. Is that correct, sir?
That's true.
And
That's correct.
And this is the condition in which you found Melissa that morning.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you felt for a pulse on one of her wrists. Which wrist did you use to feel for a pulse? There appears to be some pillows on the bed and one on top of Melissa. Were those pillows in that exact position when you walked into that room?
No, yes, sir.
Doesn't appear to be any covers or sheets on the bed. Do you recall any covers or sheets being on the bed at that time?
No, sir, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Mr. Pittman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pittman, I'm now approaching, if I may reapproach.
Yes.
I'm now going to approach you with what has been labeled as State's Exhibit 5. If you need to stand up, sir, and take a look at this, if you can identify what this item is.
That's an oversight view of the entire apartment complex.
And is that kind of the roads that we've been talking about, 440 and 6 Forks, and
Right.
are those depicted on this diagram?
Yes, that's true.
And then Ramblewood, tell us how Ramblewood kind of goes around the complex.
It just circles around and comes back around the front of the apartment complex like that. I remember when I left 6 Forks Road, I'd walk down Ramblewood to the job site on a daily basis there.
And does this diagram or photograph fairly and accurately represent the way that the Allister apartment complex looked back in May of 2013?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and in this photograph, most of the buildings are still under construction.
That's correct.
Your Honor, this time I would ask to introduce State's Exhibit 5 into evidence for illustrative purposes.
Any objection?
No, sir.
It's allowed for illustrative purposes.
I may have just a moment to set up that tripod.
Yes, sir.
And if I may have Mr. Pittman step down briefly.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Pittman, I'm just going to hand you my pen here, sir, and if you can, for the members of the jury, and if you watch these jurors just over here on your back, if you can demonstrate to them or point out to them the building in which you found Melissa that morning.
She was in the street up in here. I had to.
I'm sorry, you can go ahead with that. Where you found Hannah, the little girl, that morning, I'm sorry.
I'll let me in here.
Okay, so this is kind of the parking lot area where you found Hannah.
This is a little street that goes through there on the way.
And you mentioned that there was a fence that was separating you from Hannah. Can you show the members of the jury where that fence was?
Yes, I was working on the back side of the apartment here, and the fence continued going down this way to separate off the other apartment complexes that were being rented. So, you know, I was on this side, she was on that side.
Okay. And this building here, kind of the building that's beside the house with the pool, is that the building in which Melissa and her daughter were living back in May of 2013?
Yes, sir. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that's one of the first buildings that was available for rent.
Thank you, Mr. Pittman.
Yes, sir.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. Pittman, after calling 911, did you speak with Raleigh police officers and tell them what you had found about finding Melissa and Hannah that morning?
Yes, I did. The detectives came up and took my superintendent and I down to the headquarters, and we gave statements down there. Yes, sir.
And do you know what happened with Hannah that morning after you left her?
I didn't know. I knew the lady from EMS, I believe, took her with her, and the next time I saw Hannah was at the police headquarters with grandfather.
Thank you, Mr. Pittman. I don't have any further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
That aerial view, it looks in that, like those three buildings right there that are close together, at least in that picture, they all look complete or close to complete. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. It's different stages of the construction process. You know, some of them look complete, but they're not complete. You know, they're not ready for occupancy. You But yes, they do look a lot like.
So that you were working that day in that very large building that has the pools.
On the back side of it, yes, ma'am.
And so even though in that aerial view, that looks like that building is complete, in fact, it was still on the construction site side on that day.
Yes, it was.
Anything further for the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, all of our witnesses are here under subpoena. I'd ask that they be released as they testify.
All right. Any objection to Mr. Pittman being released? No, sir. All right, Mr. Pittman, you're released from your subpoena. You're free to go.
Thank you, sir.
Further evidence for the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, at this time, the state would call Mr. Thomas Finn to the stand.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please be seated.
Mr. Waller?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Finn, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Will you please state your name for the record?
Thomas M. Finn,
And Mr. Finn, where do you currently live, sir?
Snellville, Georgia.
And what do you do there? What do you do in Georgia?
I build apartments
How long have you been in the apartment construction business?
since 2003.
I want to turn your attention back to May of 2013. Were you living in Raleigh at that time?
Yes, I was. I was in an apartment.
And why were you living in Raleigh in May of 2013?
To build Ramblewood.
I'm sorry.
To build Ramblewood apartments.
And were there some apartments under construction there on the Ramblewood Drive in May of 2013?
Yes, sir. They had started.
What's the name of that apartment complex, if you recall?
I believe it was Allister.
The Allister apartment
Yes.
complex. How long have those apartments been under construction?
Probably, I don't know, 6, 8 months maybe before I came on board.
How many of the apartment complexes, or excuse me, apartment buildings were open for occupancy at that time in May of 2013?
One.
And do you know Mr. Robert Pittman, who just testified before you?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Mr. Pittman?
He worked under me.
And so you were a supervisor out there?
Yes, sir.
What were your general duties as a supervisor at the Allister apartment?
I was lead superintendent. I was over all construction.
Were you aware of? Did you become aware of an incident on the early morning hours of May 14th of 2013 involving Mr. Pittman?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what happened that morning when you had your first interaction with Mr. Pittman.
He came and got me and told me that there's a little girl by that apartment building crying and talking about her mama, can't wake her mama up. So I went with him to investigate.
Where did you find this little girl?
She was inside the fenced area. We fence off, a building that's occupied, we fence off from construction. She was inside there in the parking lot.
And Mr. Pittman mentioned a little bit about that to us, about the fencing off. Why do y'all fence off different areas?
You don't mix public and construction. Safety reasons.
And Mr. Pittman said he was aware that there was a little bit of, maybe some equipment that had been taken out of the complex, some general theft.
There was some theft.
Okay. Any other crimes of violence that you're aware of around that complex?
No, sir.
And so you did, in fact, go with Mr. Pittman to find this girl?
Yes, I did.
Describe for us what you saw when you and Mr. Pittman found the little girl.
She was standing in the parking lot crying and stating that, somebody please help me, I can't wake my mom up. She did got blood on her. She's thrown up. I need somebody to come help, see if he can help me with my mama.
How was the little girl dressed?
She was in her little nightgown, barefooted.
And you said she was upset.
She was crying.
What did you and Mr. Pittman decide to do at that point?
We decided to go up and see if we could help, and we proceeded to do that.
How did you get into the building?
The little girl opened the door for us.
When you went up to the apartment itself, meaning the actual apartment, not the complex, did you notice any signs of disturbance there on the front door when you went in?
Not at the front door, no.
Everything looked fairly normal.
Just at the front door, yes, sir.
And where was Hannah when the three of you entered the apartment?
I think she was between us.
What happened when you went inside, Mr. Finn?
She showed us where her mom was, where the bedroom was, and Robert went in the room. I stood at the doorway, kind of blocking the little girl after seeing the condition of her mama, so we kind of keep her back.
How was Hannah at this point?
She wasn't really saying a whole lot. She was asking about her mama, if her mom was okay, and things like that. But she wasn't crying as much as she was before.
And at this point, had Hannah let you and Mr. Pittman know what her mom's name was?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
And were y'all trying to get her attention by calling her name?
That's correct.
You said you saw the condition of her mother, Melissa.
Right.
Can you describe for the jury what condition Melissa was in when you saw her?
She was laying on the bed, kind of sprawled out with her face turned away from us, with blood all over it. There's some blood on the wall.
You mentioned blood on the wall. Could you see that blood on the wall?
Yes, sir.
Did Melissa appear to be alive at that time, Mr. Finn?
No, sir.
Did you ever walk around and actually look at Melissa's face, or did you just kind of see her from one side?
I did not.
Once you saw the condition of Hannah's mother, what did you decide to do at that point, Mr. Finn?
I told Robert go ahead and he called 911, and I kind of blocked Melissa Hannah from seeing, and he called 911 at that time.
What did you do with Hannah at this point?
Well, after a little while, after we kind of realized what was going on and help was on the way, we walked to the balcony, and me and her. I tried to get her away from the situation.
When you went out on that balcony, Mr. Finn, do you recall how you got out there?
She opened the door.
Was the door locked in any way, Mr. Finn, when
No,
you
sir.
and Hannah went out on
No,
the
sir.
balcony? When you say that you opened the door, do you recall if it was closed and you had to slide it, or if it was partially open? Do you remember?
It was. I don't remember it being open at all. She opened it.
But
Go out.
I'm sorry.
She opened it so it could go out.
But the door was not locked.
It was not.
And then what happened when you went out on the balcony itself?
I was just trying to keep her calm, and I asked her if there's somebody that she wanted to call, and she wanted to call her dad. So she called her dad on her cell phone, and then she talked to him for a minute. Then I took the phone from her and talked to her dad.
Mr. Finn, did you come to know who her dad was by any chance?
Just over the phone.
And did you let him know what y'all had found there?
Yes, sir.
How long was it before fire and EMS arrived there on the scene?
It was really a matter of minutes. Seemed like an eternity, but it was a matter of minutes while they were there.
It sounds like you were kind of taking care of Hannah while Mr. Pittman was waiting with Melissa. Were y'all talking? What was her general demeanor like?
We were talking. She was okay. I kind of got the feeling that she thought her mom might be okay. So we were just out there talking, and she talked to her dad.
Was she with you when she called her grandparents?
Yes. Yes.
And did you speak with her grandparents?
I think I spoke to her Dawn, I believe her name is.
The grandmother?
Yes.
And did you inform Dawn of what the situation was?
I told them they need to get here.
Was it your understanding they were on the way?
Yes.
Mr. Finn, after fire and EMS arrived there on the scene, what happened at that point, sir?
They asked us to leave the apartment and wait outside.
What happened with Hannah at that point?
She went with one of the EMS ladies
Did you see Hannah again either that day or since then?
at the detective's office.
Did you go down with Mr. Pittman as well and make a
Yes.
statement?
That's correct.
Did you tell the Raleigh Police Department kind of what you told the members of the jury here today?
Yes.
If I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Finn, I'm going to show you pictures that have previously been introduced to State's Exhibits 2, 3, and 4. If you'll take a look at those documents and tell me if you recognize what those photographs depict.
The apartment building.
Okay. States 2 and 3. We'll start with State's Exhibit 2. Is that the front or the rear?
That's the front.
And when I say the front, the side facing 440.
That's right.
And then State's Exhibit 3.
That's the rear of the building.
And is that the direction that you and Mr. Pittman entered that apartment building?
Yes, it is.
And then State's Exhibit 4, can you identify that photograph?
Yes, that's the way we found her.
And Your Honor, again, I'd ask permission to publish State's Exhibits 2, 3, and 4.
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 2, can you identify that for the members of the jury?
The front of the apartment building.
Now, on this photograph, State's Exhibit 2, if you were walking up these stairs, where would Melissa's apartment be? And if you're walking up the stairs from this direction?
You go up the concrete stairs, straight down the breezeway, and be on the right. Last one on the right.
And so to be clear, Mr. Finn, and you can stand up too if you need to, but when you say these concrete stairs, if you entered from, is this Ramblewood?
Yes, it is.
So this is Ramblewood Street, walk up these stairs, and then you would not go up
That's
these
correct.
stairs.
You don't go up there.
Okay, you would go straight through the breezeway.
That's right.
And then her apartment would have been on
Mid second on the right.
Now if we can go to State's Exhibit 3. And what do you see here, Mr. Finn?
That's the rear of the building.
Now, when you and Mr. Pittman and Hannah entered the building at this point, is that the direction you entered?
That's correct.
Now, kind of the opposite of the photograph we just saw in State's Exhibit 2, would you have to, in fact, go upstairs to get to her
That's correct.
apartment in this photograph?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really depicted very well in this photograph, but there's a police officer here, and then
There's a set of stairs right there.
so that's how you would get
Yes.
to her apartment from the back side.
That's
of
correct.
This balcony here, kind of behind these two trees, would that be Melissa's balcony?
Yes, it is.
And is that the balcony that you and Hannah were waiting for fire and EMS on?
Correct.
You can kind of see it in the background of that photograph, but what type of door is it that leads out to that balcony?
Sliding door.
And if we can go to State's Exhibit 4. What do you see in State's Exhibit 4?
Melissa laying on her bed.
Anything about that photograph that, well, let me ask it this way, I'm sorry. Did you or Mr. Pittman disturb anything in that room when you entered to check on her?
No, sir.
These pillows you see on the bed and on top of her, were they in that condition when you arrived?
That's correct.
No sheets on the bed, anything
No.
like, any changes or alterations to her condition based on this photograph?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. And if I may have Mr. Finn step down.
Yes.
Mr. Finn, I'm going to show you what has previously been introduced as State's Exhibit 5. Do you recognize that aerial photograph, Mr. Finn?
Yes, I do.
Okay, can you describe kind of for the members of the jury the general layout of this apartment complex as you knew it back in May of 2013?
No, this is the first building we turned over. This is the one she was living in. these were close to completion, they were still a good ways to go before they were ready to turn over.
And when you say turnover, do you mean that,
Turn over to management, policing.
okay, and people can live in the apartment at that point?
Correct.
So this building right here is the only building that had anyone living in it at that time?
Correct.
And in that photograph, we saw that there was an apartment below Melissa's balcony. Do you know what that apartment was being used for?
They were using it for temporary leasing.
So if somebody walked in off the street and wanted to rent an apartment,
They would go there.
that's where they would go.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pittman and yourself have kind of mentioned that there was a fence to to keep the construction site separate from the occupancy or the building that was occupied. Can you describe where that fence was for us?
The fence ran down this side of the road and across here. To segregate the building.
And in this photograph, it appears that maybe the parking lot was still under construction, but
Yes.
on May 14th of 2013, would there have been, asphalt and all down
The
there?
asphalt wall would be down.
Ramblewood is the street that you've identified
Right.
earlier, and that's State's Exhibit 2. If you're looking from Ramblewood into the apartment complex, that would be your perspective.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Finn. If I may have just a moment, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
In that apartment prior to leaving.
That's correct. We did not.
Thank you, Mr. Finn. I don't have any further questions.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Finn, did you go into Melissa's bedroom?
Stop at the doorway.
You stopped at the doorway?
Yes,
so
sir.
You never actually went inside the
No,
bedroom? You went onto the balcony?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pittman did not go onto the balcony?
No, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Anything further for the state? This one. All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down. Any objection to him being released from his subpoena?
No, sir.
And sir, you're released from your subpoena. You're free to go. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 15-minute recess and resume at 10 minutes till 12. I'll ask the jurors to recall the rules that I've already instructed on. Don't talk among yourselves or with anyone else. Don't form or express about the case. Don't form or express any opinions about the outcome. No media or independent investigation. No conversation with parties, witnesses, or lawyers. And if everyone else will please remain seated while the jurors excuse themselves. If you'll follow the bailiff out the back door, members of the jury. Jury, that they're not to talk with anyone about this case or allow anyone to talk about the case in their presence, and they're not to have any conversation with parties, witnesses, or lawyers. I would ask those of you in the gallery to make sure you give these jurors just abundant space so that there's no question that these rules are being followed. If you are in the corridors with them, simply give them plenty of room. If you happen to be waiting for elevators together, again, give these jurors plenty of space. They all are wearing red badges, so please stay away from them. These rules apply to everyone in the gallery. In violation of this rule would be contempt of court. With that being said, we'll be in recess until 10 minutes until 12.
Your court stands in recess till 11:50.